So when in 2015, which was the time frame also during which the Obama administration's 2 year commission to test the financial capabilities of young Americans had expired. And right as elements of using behavioral sciences to better serve the American people went into effect, the Defense Acquisitions System was engaging in a process of offsets for contractors. What relationship did this have to the increased engagement of the Department of State as a broker in connection with alleged military assistance? Was this something that was allowed to compound based upon being able to get away for a specific period of time, which, by the way, by 2015 would have been in time for a what? 5 year convertible on an appropriate corporate affiliate who maybe was engaged in some sort of short term corporate swap activity, so that by the time that regulation with DoD contractors went into effect, what did you swap out? Younger generation maybe for obligations placed on an older generation? As in, what they owed for was swapped to the younger generation to bear the cost of, while what would have otherwise been the credit of the younger generation was allowed to be diverted, inherited through the child. And so, after that, those financial capabilities of young Americans were then put to use in terms of serving whoever was allowed to be acknowledged as the American people. Now we're past that 5 year point. This past summer would have been 5 years after that, which is around the time that there was a major global swap occurring. Wasn't there? Is it that coordinated and strategic? It sounds about right. Did China do something comparable with its laws concerning foreign investment and the concept of the investor as opposed to the investment methodology, rather, the kind of legal framework for the investment as opposed to the specific understanding and attribution of the investor? Sounds like somebody's getting ready for a global gen banking economy and an understanding of access to specific kinds of information around classifications and valuations of particular attributes or characteristics that would then allow for an understanding of their capacity for circulation, depending also upon where you allowed yourself to be located from in terms of origin, or where you settled on being represented, especially and including if you had already been ascribed as a demographic experience and accepted that placement and were allowed to be automated into the system, i.e., genetically engineering people and creating racialized systems of automation as opposed to authenticating people's actual capacities to engage. And so, if you are someone that's in a position to be availed of the advantages of acknowledgement for your capacity to engage in and or your inventory of past engagements in and through the DoD contracting system, then you'll be able to be availed of offsets, including potentially offsets that have been allowed to be absorbed under the rubric of intelligence or somehow allowed to be confidentialized as part of healthcare treatment, so that people that have been shamed or that have been incapacitated or disabled, or have been ascribed and programmed based on some form of bionetic enhancements associated with medical treatment, including for a pandemic or in connection with a pandemic, so that they can be used as assets available to those who can offset whatever they costs are associated with the administration of their contract. And it would help if at the onset of that law, which apparently went into effect on June 2nd of 2015, you had a sort of upfront capital investment based on a certain kind of liquidity being open. What was going on around the 30 days before that ended up happening? Let's see. Allegedly, there was a hack of the foreign ministry in Saudi Arabia that was attributed to members of the Yemeni resistance, but that was acknowledged and allowed to be represented as somehow being supported by the Islamic Republic of Iran. There was the removal of former Speaker of the House Dennis Hastert in connection with allegations that he had been involved with child sex predation in regards to his role as a teacher of athletics for young boys. And there was the unfortunate death of an Army reservist who also happened to be a JAG lawyer investigating contracting in Iraq, who died of a medical condition. Wow, that's a lot of upfront investment for offset possibilities. Is there any evidence that there was a replication, or rather a recapitulation of those methodologies for offsetting in connection with contracting that may have been allowed to accrue or compound to the detriment of other possibilities? Well, yes, there is. Wow. It is incredibly important to consider what it means that another country had engaged and apparently let people know it had engaged a policy of reconsidering its concept of foreign investment in accordance with the manner in which the People's Republic of China did, at the same time that apparently the United States is also reconsidering its methodology around foreign investment with not very explicit terms being provided as a manner in which to allow people to understand the changes.